Bibliophiles of the internet, today I'm here to do the last book tag. This is basically a short and sweet tag where you talk about the last book you started, finished, rated a certain amount of stars, so on and so forth. I recently saw it done on Nikel's Nook, whose video I will link down below, and also one of my patrons, Kitty, recommended that I do it as well, so thank you for the suggestion. And to give you a peek behind the curtain, I just needed something super easy to film because I have a couple of really big weekends coming up, and I wanted to film something. I wanted to talk about books like I always do, but I just don't have the capacity for something super big, so this just seemed like a really good compromise. I also cannot find the original creator of this tag. The creator in the video I saw gave credit to Becoming Lalu, who I will also link down below, but it wasn't clear in their video whether it was a new concept or adapted from something else. So if you know, let me know, and I will update my description accordingly. But let's just get started. The first prompt is, show us the last book you purchased. This is actually a good question because I definitely get more book mail than I probably should, and not all of those things are books that I bought myself. So I had to actually go back into my trusty spreadsheet and double check my records, but my records tell me that the last book I bought myself, and you're gonna love this, was the paperback edition of The World and All That It Holds by Alexander Hamon. And if you can tell, yes, there is a stained gloss detail of a flower on the cover, which makes me feel a lot of things. If you're new here, this was one of my top favorite books of last year. It was also actually the first book I read in 2023, and even after a year and some change, it has stayed at the forefront of my consciousness. My love for this story truly only seems to deepen as the months progress. Very briefly, it's a heart-wrenching yet extremely hopeful queer World War I story, and yes, the fact that I read and loved another queer World War I story to start this year is a running joke that I have with myself and no one else. It's a story about displacement, it's about refugees. Our main character, Pinto, lives in Sarajevo in 1914 and actually witnesses the assassination of the Archduke. And as much as he would like to continue working at the pharmacy he inherited from his father, he is drafted into the war where he meets Osman, a fellow soldier, and also the love of his life. I love this book so much, I cannot talk about it. It's beautiful, it's visceral, it's overwhelming. Like I said, it's less about the battlefront and more about these two soldiers fleeing from country to country, just trying to find a place where they can be together and live. Listen, I am constantly thinking about rereading this book, and I feel like if I ever did, I would reread it from this edition. At least that's what I tell myself. Next is the last book you recently started. Keep in mind, I am pre-filming this, so these answers may no longer apply by the time you see this, but as of filming this video, I have two answers. First is Celestial Monsters by Aidan Thomas. I was kindly sent an early edition to peruse, if you will. I won't give a synopsis because I don't want to spoil anything, but this is the sequel to The Sunbear Trials, which was infamously pitched as Percy Jackson meets The Hunger Games. This book picks up like exactly where the first book left off, as if not a single second has passed between the two, and it has been a wildly delightful ride so far, to say the very least. My second answer is that I'm also working my way through my Patreon pick for April. My patrons very kindly voted for me to finally read The Story of the 100 Promises by Neil Cochran, which is an indie trans fantasy romance. It's very loosely based off Beauty and the Beast. It has some Howl's Moving Castle vibes thrown in there as well. It's about a trans sailor who basically cut off his family and went to make a new life for himself with people who actually care about him and love him exactly as he is. But when his sister suddenly arrives at their latest docking point, begging him to reconcile with their ailing father, his life turns upside down. He ends up going on this quest to find someone who can heal his father, and he knows the only person with that kind of power is the mysterious enchanter who once gave him the magic he needed to become the man that he is. Again, as of filming this, I'm just very early days into this, but I've been wanting to read it for such a long time, so it's nice to finally get to it, and I'm listening to the audiobook as well, which has also been really nice. The last book you were gifted. Again, I had to go back to my nifty spreadsheet to see what was the last piece of book mail that was gifted to me from a publisher, because I haven't had a birthday recently, there haven't been any gift-giving occasions as of late. So I believe my answer for this is what I think is an early finished copy of Looking for Love in All the Haunted Places by Claire Kahn, which was very kindly gifted to me by Berkeley Romance and comes out on May 21st. From what I know, this is kind of like a spooky romance. I think it's more romance than horror, but it does take place in a haunted house. It's about Lucky, who has an affinity for the supernatural, but hasn't really been able to make a career out of that. But everything changes for her when she hears about a troubled production company who's struggling to film this paranormal series, because anyone who spends 3 consecutive nights in this old Victorian house where they're filming inevitably quits. So she schemes her way onto set and immediately starts flirting with a member of the crew, to the point where where everyone can sense the palpable chemistry between them, including Hennessy House itself. It's been a second since I've read something from Claire Kahn, but I'm really excited about this. The last book you gave someone else. My quick answer would be that my sister loves Pride and Prejudice, and so I gave her this really cute special edition for her birthday. Yes, I got one for myself as well, and it was just one part of like a Pride and Prejudice themed gift. I could also say The Breakup List by Adib Khorram. Penguin Teen very kindly sent me a finished copy, so I ended up with 2, and I sent the extra one to my friend Xander for their birthday. And I was so excited I could do that, not only because it's queer, not only because it's Adib, but it's also a theater tech romance, which is so incredibly niche, and Xander is also actually trained as a theater tech, so it just ended up being a perfect storm of things. The last book you recently finished. Again, this answer may be a little bit out of date, but if it's not Celestial Monsters, then it was The Deep Sky by Yume Kitase. I read this from my library. It's a sci-fi mystery thriller set in the future when Earth is having its final reckoning with climate change, to the point where there's a space program that's been developed, and the idea is that they're going to launch a spaceship that's going to be carrying 80 elite human specimens hand-chosen to give birth to a whole new generation of children in space. The end game is that the ship will reach a new habitable planet called Planet X, and with this new generation of children, the legacy of humankind will continue. Our main character is Asuka. She is both Japanese and American, and she was also chosen as an alternate for this mission, so she generally feels out of place. And things quickly go south when a bomb goes off on their ship, which knocks them off course, and also puts Asuka in a position where she is actually the only surviving witness. This was wild. It's so intense because the people on the ship are not only trying to desperately course correct to save the mission, but they're also playing detective in this closed-door environment and trying to uncover the truth about who set this explosive and whether this double agent could still be sabotaging the mission from the inside right underneath their noses. To say I was fully invested would be an understatement. You could not have ripped this book from my hands in the last 100 pages or so. No, it's not perfect, but it is really good, and I did enjoy it. The author also has a new book coming out later this year, which is described as a space heist, and I cannot wait. The last book you gave 5 stars. This is another good question, and this is kind of turning out to be a mini preview of my April wrap-up, but I'm cool with it, and I believe that would be the graphic novel Squire by Sarah Alfaghi and Nadia Shamas. This is a comic that is co-created by a Jordanian-American and Palestinian-American illustrator and author, respectively. It's a historical fantasy, but it has very clear ties to the ongoing genocidal violence occurring in Palestine at the hands of Israeli settlers. It's about a young character who's always dreamed of becoming a knight, which is the highest military designation that one can achieve. And she wants this not only because it comes with honor and prestige, but because as a member of the subjugated Ornu people, she knows it's her only path to full citizenship. She gets herself into the Squire training program, the story goes from there. Like I said, even though this is set in a quote-unquote fantasy world, it has very clear ties to the types of colonial violence and imperialism that we see to this day. It's a very powerfully told story about what it means to wrestle with and untangle ourselves from the internalized colonization that resides within us. The last book you gave 2 stars. Now, I'm not going to talk about this book because I've said everything I want to say or need to say about it in a previous wrap-up, and I have no interest in recapping that discussion, but I believe that would be The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and that is all I have to say on the subject. The next question is about your last audiobook. I already mentioned that I've been listening to The Story of the 100 Promises, but before that, my last audiobook was Womb City by Totlo Tamase, which was read by Christelle Mutombo, who did an absolutely incredible job, by the way. It's a really great listen, so I definitely recommend. The last question is about your last DNF, but I personally don't often feel the urge to DNF things. There have been maybe 1 or 2 cases in the past handful of months where I maybe could have benefited from DNFing something, but I'm usually pretty good at choosing books for myself, so I don't really have an answer for this. So those are all the questions in the last book tag. If any of these questions brought up an answer for you, I would love to hear about it down below in the comments, and if you would like to do this tag in the future and say that I tagged you, you are more than welcome to do that as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, educate yourself, be kind to yourself, take care of yourself and others, and I will catch you on the flip side of the page.